Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed your coffee, pastries, fruit, or whatever. You can see from the slide behind me, this next session is all around the client perspective. So the beginning of the day, we were setting the scene. We were talking about what's happening around the Swedish roadmap. What's currently the situation? How is the client community trying to drive low carbon infrastructure currently? And to do that, we're going to have our first presentation from Håkan Johansson, who's the coordinator for climate mitigation for the Swedish Transport Administration. So Håkan, please come and join me on stage. And yes, welcome. The stage is yours.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you to having the possibility to be here and speak about how we use procurement to reduce carbon. And what is our motivation for doing this? Of course, as you have heard, Sweden have ambitious goals to reduce carbon. We have this that Sweden should be climate neutral in 2045 at latest. The government has also high ambitions to be the first fossil-free welfare state in the world. According to our instruction that we have as an authority or administration, it also say that we should contribute to this and other goals. Not saying that the government has said to us directly that you should work with procurement to reduce carbon. That is actually something that we come up with ourselves. And we also see that, as mentioned before, that carbon from infrastructure is essential emission source contributing to the overall emissions. We say that about 5-10% of the emission from the transport system comes from the infrastructure, including the embedded carbon. And actually, in Sweden, the infrastructure that we are responsible for the road and rails infrastructure, the state-owned roads, is very large compared to other countries. We have a road network of 100,000 kilometers, where 70% of all the traffic on roads goes on those roads. And we are responsible for the rail network, except those that goes trams and metro and some other rail. And from that, building, construction, and maintaining that infrastructure, there is emissions from embedded carbon about 1 million tons per year, or even more than that. And very important also is that as doing procurement, because we do not build anything ourselves or even maintain ourselves, we have contractors to do that. But through procurement, we can actually lower those emissions. So we have worked with, of course, with reducing carbon in projects for a long time, but it was mainly in individual projects, so that you some model in one project and another in another, and the industry didn't feel that it was one transport administration that gave this requirements. So we started then in 2014 with our work to have an overall requirements that was common for all the projects. And then we started, of course, looking on what goals are there. Then we didn't have the Climate Act, but the government and parliament had decided already at that time that Sweden should be climate neutral at 2050. That was changed later with the Climate Act 2045. What we set up this, of course, if Sweden should be climate neutral at that time, of course the infrastructure must also be it. So that was our long-term goal. And then we set up intermediate goals, saying that in 2020, 15% reduction, in 2025, 30% reduction compared to a base year 2015. What we didn't really know at that moment, because that is derived from the goals, the climate goals, what did that mean for costs and so on. So we started to do an impact assessment together with the industry. We had help of a consultant also to do that. So we had workshops together with the industry and asking them a lot of questions and so on. And we came up to one of the most important conclusions from that was that reductions of 30%, maybe 50%, we can do without increasing costs, as we heard earlier also, doing more things more efficient. So when we done that impact assessment and got those conclusions, we implemented those goals into procurement. So at the moment we have requirements in procurement on three different areas or three types. It is for the large investment projects over 50 million Swedish crowns or 5 million euros, where we have requirements to reduce carbon compared to a certain base level. And then we also, that we started in 2016, and then we also started to have, because we buy all the railway materials that are used in Sweden ourselves, like rails and tracks and so on. So in the first big procurement that we had there on concrete sleepers, I will tell you more about that, then we had requirements there also. And the third one is that from this year, we also have requirements in the smaller projects where we do not have the baseline from a climate calculation. Then we have to go directly on the materials to have requirements there. A certain level of CO2 emissions per kilo concrete, for example. And then, of course, in the end, I have to show that they achieve this. I will not tell you so much more about the requirements in the small projects, so you have to ask me about that in the coffee break or maybe in the panel. So I'll tell you more about the requirements in the large projects. So we start with, we have a climate calculation tool that we, from that we derive a baseline for this projects that is for the situation in 2015. And then we also have requirements to reduce carbon in the procurement, and that is derived from our goals. So on average, it is those reductions. And then we also have a bonus model. So that is given in the procurement. So they know the baseline, they know the requirements, they know the bonus model, and they also are given the climate calculation so that they know how we have calculated this. Of course, things happen during the contract. Maybe there are some more work somewhere, and then you have to update the baseline also. And in the end of the project, then the contractor has to show that they have achieved the requirement, and if they overachieve, then they can get a bonus also. So they have to give a climate declaration there, and if they use specific materials, like for example some different cement or some different reinforcement steel or something like that, they have also to give EPDs for those environmental product declarations, third party EPDs. And for the concrete and reinforcement steel and construction steel, we always give that. They always have to give this EPDs. Climate calculation tool is something that we own, that we develop, and every year we have an updated version of that. and it calculates the emissions in a life cycle perspective, including the embedded carbon. It builds on existing data and simple to use. And of course, you can put in, for example, other emission factors in the end if you have an EPD for that. It's used also from the early planning phase. So of course, you can do a lot also in the early phases of a project to reduce carbon. So it's used already there and to the end of the project. And also there is a way that you can use the model also for calculating the emissions from maintenance of existing infrastructure. And it's mandatory for the large projects from 2015 to use this in all projects. And from 2016, then it's used in the requirements, of course. Some example of work. I said that we are responsible for buying all the railway materials. So in 2016, we had this large procurement of sleepers to the railway. It's very long contract. It has been that always. But it is like 5 years and then another 5 years, so that if major things happen, of course we can, after those 5 years, can we do a new procurement. But we have now put up requirements and then a bonus model for all these 20 years actually. And we knew pretty well how large the emissions were from those sleepers, because that was something that we had in the existing contract that they should give values on that. And then from that we had a reduction, so that they had to achieve, in this case, 51 kilo per sleepers. And then for the second period, 46 kilos. And then this was a bonus model saying that at maximum they could give 2% bonus if they had 10% reductions over this requirements. And actually, and then also they have to deliver an EPD in the beginning of the project before they do the delivery, so that we see that actually we get what we ask for. And both the contractors achieved full bonus in the first period. Okay, that costs? No, it didn't. It was lower cost actually than the previous period. So in total, so both cost reduction and CO2 reduction. And then there's another. The most of the projects are quite early in the phase now, and this is an example of a contract that follows our model. It is a railway contract, building a new stretch of railway, where you have a baseline, which is given in tons per year, and that is because we also include the coming maintenance. So it's over the lifetime of this railway actually. And then you have to reduce it by 10%. It was early, so now it's maybe should be more than that. And then there was a bonus also. And it's an ongoing project, so we have to come back and see what actually came out of this. Yeah. So what happens next then? We have started now with a large investment projects. We have one big procurement of railway materials ongoing this year. We have new contracts on switches to the railway, where we do procurement, and more such materials will come. In some years, there will be a big procurement of tracks to the railway. We extend it to maintenance. We are now working with requirements on pavements. There we do not use this klimatkalkyl. Instead, we have a certain model that is for pavements that creates the baseline. And then, of course, evaluation. We have a control station where we evaluate the requirements until now and see. I mean, we are still learning how this works together with the business.